The Dingle Peninsula has a landscape which is like no other in Western Europe. There is a huge variety of archaeological monuments surrounding the peninsula. This mountainous finger of land juts into the Atlantic Ocean and has supported various tribes and populations for almost 6,000 years. The peninsula is in a remote location, and so the preservation of well over 2,000 monuments has been amazingly preserved. The history of the Dingle Peninsula is one of uniqueness, and it has a complex history. Many may not be impressed by the archaeological heritage, but when one combines every site's folklore and mythology and sees how through the Irish language generation after generation have kept this amazing history alive, we can find evidence of the first settlers at Ferreter's Cove near Ballyferriter. These people were hunters and gatherers who gathered food sources from along the coast. Hard stones were usually found in the local area, which were used to make tools. This site had settlers within the Mesolithic period, 8,000 to 4,000 BC. Only during the seasonal period was the site used. Foods were produced of a wide range, such as red deer, pig, hare, hazelnuts and birds, and it has been discovered by archaeologists that 14 species of fish were hunted down during this period. In the sand dunes area you can still find several species of shellfish which were deposited over 6,000 years ago. If we look back into 5,700 before present, one of the most important finds was cow bones. This is solid evidence that cattle were in Ireland from a very early period. In the southwest of Ireland, the debate as to whether Neolithic monuments exist has reopened since the discovery of a number of passage tombs close to Tralee area of County Kerry. It is now thought that many of the hilltop cairns and also some of the standing stones date to Neolithic. It is also very possible that the cup and circle rock art is Stone Age rather than Bronze Age. During this period is when the first farmers appear, who lived in a structure that were more permanent. These structures showed the settlers' skills of pottery and craft. Tool and weapon making was made of stone, which was the main material, and large stone tombs were built to house the dead and maybe even for the use in rituals. Amazing architectural skills are shown in their orientation on the setting sun during the winter solace. Changes started to occur from 2500 BC. Knowledge of exploiting copper and later the production of bronze appeared for the first time. Ireland was to go through a huge change during this period, and even more so in the southwest of the country, where large quantities of copper were exploited. It's thought that a new population of people from the south arrived at this time, and with them they brought new developments and technologies. The main monuments associated with the Bronze Age are the stone circles, stone alignments, stone pairs, standing stones, wedge tombs, ancient eating places, cist graves, and possibly some of the rock art and shell middens. There is difficulty in identifying any of the habitation sites used during this period, but the artifactual evidence certainly makes up for this. Europe's second largest collection of gold can be found in Ireland. It comes in the form of lunula. Collars of gold, bracelets, earrings, hairlocks, gold balls and gold boxes. There are hundreds of bronze implements, vessels and weapons, each type showing their development through the Bronze Age. Near Clohan, the Lochadoon Valley has the most remarkable series of monuments from the Bronze Age. Within this valley, 90 stone structures can be found dating from 2500 BC up to modern times. Running like a web throughout the landscape are several miles of stone wall. hidden by peat which has accumulated over the past 3,000 years. From archaeological excavations and pollen studies, it has become clear that the Lochadon Valley was used for intensive agriculture, both pastoral and arable, from 1600 BC to the beginning of the Iron Age. During this time, habitation huts, standing stones and enclosures were erected to house both humans and animals. Even earlier are the wedge tomb and the cup and circle rock art, of which there are 9 examples, making it the largest concentration on the Dingle Peninsula. The level of preservation is due to the protective cover of the bog, which completely covered the landscape. It is during modern turf cutting that the ancient remains are uncovered. The peat preserves all organic materials to a remarkable degree. Birch wood found during the excavation of a section of pre-bog wall was preserved perfectly. The bog also holds all of the pollen which was released from the vegetation over the past several thousand years, enabling the botanist to discover what grew in the valley in the past. The Lochadon Valley today has been marked out with a walking route along with the guidebook and is accessible to walkers of all abilities. The Iron Age is often associated with the Celtic period. Some of the archaeological information from this period is sketchy, but hill forts, some ring forts, stone forts, Ogham stones, holy wells and pilgrimages date to this period. One of the most dramatic sites on the peninsula may also date to this period. Overlooking the village of Camp, the gateway to the peninsula, one will find Caer Conry, certainly the finest promontory hill fort in the country. Its high wall actually marks the boundary to the balcony of Corca de Feen. What was its use? Was it defensive, territorial, or occupied on a more full-time basis? Nobody knows its true purpose, but it's certainly one of the most rewarding walks on the Dingle Peninsula. The peninsula has the largest collection of Ogham stones, almost 70. Ogham is the earliest form of Irish writing, and the stones may have been used as landmarks or could also have been linked in with land ownership. The stones carry the name of a male and also refer to his father and grandfather. One of the finest Ogham stones is located overlooking the Blasket Islands on the summit of Dunmore. The strongest evidence for a Celtic presence is the Irish language, which is still spoken on the peninsula. Gaeilge was once spoken all over the country, but now survives only along the west coast and at a few other locations. It is related to Scots Gaelic and Manx, once spoken on the Isle of Man. Also belonging to this period is the ancient pilgrimage to the summit of Mount Brandon. This was ritualistically done on the last Sunday of July. It was a part of worship to the Celtic god Lucanus as part of the harvest festival. Later it became Christianized and was dedicated to St. Brandon, a 6th century monk who is said to have sailed to America long before Columbus. The story of his voyage was translated into every European language by the 12th century and made Brandon famous as a seafaring saint. It was from the summit of Mount Brandon that Brandon had a vision of the land to the west. The route of the old pilgrimage is clearly marked to the summit of Ireland's second highest mountain. Today there are over 30 monastic sites with a variety of remains such as cratores, cross slabs, holy wells, beehive huts, shrines, burials, sundials and enclosing features. Some have been excavated, such as Riasc near Ballyferriter. Others off the coast of Castle Gregory remain particularly untouched since they were deserted sometime in the 12th century. It was from such sites of education from the 6th century on that Irish monks travelled throughout Europe, converting Christians to the monastic life. It is from this period that the finest artworks were produced, such as the Book of Kells and the Arda Chalice, among others.